Welcome back, everyone. Hey, good to see you. Right, so this video is quite a long time coming. I have been procrastinating over Christmas, I'm not going to lie, but here I am with the next video. Listen, I'm going to try and make it a little bit quicker than the last one. I mean, there was a lot to talk about with text functions. If you haven't seen it, go back and have a look at it. I think it's going to be kind of important. Some of it is going to be prerequisite to some of the other stuff that we're looking at in today's video and in later videos that we've already got planned as well. So I have already touched on this before. I have already sort of mentioned this, but it's important to sort of understand how dates work in spreadsheets. So everything that I'm going to do today is going to be the same if you're in Google Sheets, which is the tool that I'm using now, or if you use a tool like Microsoft Excel, or even something like Zoho Tables, or anything like that. All of these rules, as far as I'm concerned, please tell me if I'm wrong, folks, in the comments, but as far as I'm concerned, everything I'm going to do today applies to every single one of those spreadsheet tools. There are some differences, some subtle differences across different tools and platforms, but I'm pretty confident in saying at this stage that all of the basic stuff that I'm going to be doing in this series, the Basics Fundamental series, is going to be the same across all of them. So please keep that in mind. Anyway, we're talking about dates, we're talking about times today, because the way that dates and times work in spreadsheets are very different to the way that they work in lots of other data tools. Effectively, something to remember is that a date in a spreadsheet isn't actually a date. It's basically just a number in cosplay. I guess is just a way of thinking about it. It's a number actually in disguise, and this is what I mean. Let's have a look at this. So if I'm going to punch in a date now, I'm just going to pick a random date here, 9th of February 2026. The number itself is represented like it's a date. And it says the 9th of February 2026, or obviously if you're from the other side of the pond, it'll look like that it's the September the 2nd 2026. I suppose it's important to point out that I'm in the UK, I'm using UK /EU /rest of the world way of formatting dates. If you are in the US of A, please keep that in mind. But this is a date. It looks like a date. You have a look at the formula bar right at the top, and it looks like a date. And you think it's a date, right? Is it? Okay. But if I copy this into another cell, and I change the format here into a number, actually what is behind it is actually a number. 9th of February 2026 is actually represented as a date format of the number, also known as the serial, 46,062. And I can prove that this is how numbers actually work, because if I actually take this, if I take this date, the same date, and I type in the day before. In fact, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this date, and I'm going to change it for a reason, and we'll see why a little bit later. 29th of August, 1997, an important date. I'm going to copy this down, and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to change it as a number. There we go, 35,671. That's a bit weird. Okay. Let me have a look at the day before this, the 28th of August, 1997. And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to copy and paste that. And I'm going to change this into a number. And we can see that 35,671 for the 29th of August is represented as 35,670 for the 28th of August. The day before is actually represented as one fewer in the value of the day before. So each day is represented as a serial date, starting from 1, going back to the first year, the first day, according to what spreadsheets are. That's going to be a different video. I'll come on to that. But going all the way up to however many it's going to be within the future. The dates are actually just numbers, and that's it. Okay, so the advantage of using that in a spreadsheet is that you can start running calculations on it. You can run some fairly straightforward calculations on the dates because they're actually numbers in disguise. That's what they are. And the thing is, it doesn't just work for dates, it works for times as well. So I'm going to go a little bit more detailed. We're going for the 29th of August 1997 again, and I'm going to look specifically at 2:14 in the morning. We'll have a look at that. Now that's an important date and time for any of you who know that. Please feel free to add in the comments you know what this is. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm going to change it into a number format. And what we're left with here is 35,671 with a decimal value, 0.09. So what happens is that if every single date is represented by a whole number, the time in a spreadsheet is represented by a decimal value as well. And the beauty of that is that it can actually go the other way around. So if I was to type in a number that is 42,298.6868, let's do that. That's our number that I'm going to claim that I have randomly chosen. If I'm going to paste that into another one and now go the other way, I'm going to change this to a date format. Turns out that it's the 21st of October 2015. And in fact, I can go even further, change it to a date time, 21st of October 2015 at 4:29 in the afternoon, 1629. Again, that date might sound familiar to you. So, dates are numbers. Those are things that are important to mention, so that when you're using functions like today, that will return whatever the day is according to your system that is set up, or in this case, the browser settings, that will actually return whatever today's date is, which is brilliant. There's also another function that says now, and the difference between today and now is that the now actually returns the time value. You can see that at the moment, at the time of recording, it's the 8th of February 2026, and it's 9:55 in the morning. You're like, that's brilliant, that's fantastic. I can timestamp things. I can enter things into my spreadsheet, and I can use the now function where I can timestamp things. I'm going to come back to this in a second because that is something you should be very cautious of, and I'll be covering in a later video about how we can actually approach any problems that come by with that. So as I said, with numbers and dates actually being with dates and times being a number that is just in disguise, we can start running calculations on it. So if I was going to take today's date, which is just the today function again, and I'm going to plus 1 to it, well, that actually returns now the day after. So it's tomorrow's date. So if the date is the 8th of February 2026, then today plus 1, if I'm just adding 1 to the date, to the serial value that sits behind that date, is coming up with tomorrow's date. And you could do the same with the now function. If I was going to say now plus 1.5, that's actually going to add 24 hours, being one day, plus another 12 hours, so a total of 36 hours to my actual value that it is now. So 9th of February 2026, so that's tomorrow, and 12 hours added on top of that, 21:56. Now, the more astute of you would have noticed that as I was punching in these functions, the now value that I've got up here has been updating. And this is the problem that I want you to be cautious about when we're using the now function. The issue with now is that every single time you make a change, it will refresh the values that you've got there. If I was to change this to a 2.5, keep an eye on the value in the now cell here. It updates. It changes now to 9:57. If I'm going to go and revert that back to the 1.5 I had previously, oop, I missed that. Let's try that again. Revert that back to the 1.5 that I had previously. The now value updates again, and every single time I update, I make a change to this spreadsheet, the value that sits in this cell will refresh. Now, the now function is not the only function that does that too. I'm going to be talking about that as part of common functions on the next video, but something to be cautious of. If there is a value that represents something real, something environmental, then it will refresh every single time that you change it. So keep that in mind. Today I've used the today function, and that's showing up as today's date. If I was going to load this same spreadsheet tomorrow, then that will reflect tomorrow's date. It won't be what's actually been punched at the time. So those are numbers, those are dates, and those are the today and now functions. They're pretty useful, they are pretty handy, but it needs to come with some caution. But one of the main things I wanted to cover off in this video is that actually about, because of the way that dates actually work, being effectively numbers in disguise, is that when you're actually trying to use elements of the date itself, there are a couple of different considerations that you need to have. So what I'm going to show you first is that there is a function called date that allows you to build up a date, and this is something that's a little bit more useful and beneficial and versatile when you're actually working with dates and times within spreadsheets. So instead of actually typing in the date itself, I'm going to use the date function, And I'm just going to punch in just some numbers. Let's go with, if I say 2025, and then I'm going to say comma to move on to the month bit, and I'm going to say 1. I'm going to press comma to move on to the day bit, hit 31, close off my brackets. And when I hit enter, it's returning the date value, 31st of January 2026. Now that's the actual date that's been entered. Now why that's important is that I mentioned earlier on in the video, I'm in the UK, I'm using the UK and the US version of standard format of dates. Not everybody does this. The US, as I'm sure you know, tend to go with month, day, week. Month, day, year. So there is an issue if you are working with spreadsheets and the locale, the region that you're working with, is different to what you expect. And there could also be examples if you're pulling in spreadsheets from America, for example, or if America are pulling in spreadsheets from the UK and the dates haven't been specifically set as dates. There is a data quality risk there. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to change. I've got 31st of January 2025, and in fact I'm going to change this to something a little bit more reasonable. I'm going to change it to the 12th of January. Okay, 12th of January 2025. If I was to go and update my settings to say that I'm actually working not in Taiwan into the United States, and I save and reload this date now changes automatically to the US format, which is great, which is fantastic. But depending on how you'd actually punched your dates in, you wouldn't necessarily see these change. 29th of August 1997 still reflects as the 29th of August 1997 for the simple reason is because there is no 29th month. So the system doesn't know how to deal with it, so it just leaves it the way that it is. And this is a big risk in using different locations and dates. So please keep that in mind, that when you use the date function itself, you're being very, very specific to say that this is the actual date that I am working with. That's how it works. So anyway, back to the UK format. There is another benefit of using the dates function itself. So I'm just going to punch in some other values here. But if I go with the same date I had before, so I'll go 2025. I'll say the month is 1, and I'll say the day is 31. I can now actually use these numerical values, they're numbers, but I can actually use them now as part of my date using that date function. So there we go, date. My year is going to be this cell, hit comma. My month is going to be this cell, hit comma. My day is going to be this cell. And there we go, 31st of January 2025. So you can actually use this function, this date function, if you have a table that is set up that has months and days and years sort of like separated, or if you just wanted to extract elements of it, you can use this date function or other functions to do that. And let me reverse that. Let me show you that the other way. I've got another date to put in here. I'm going to say this time, I'm going to use the date function, and I'm going to say 2063. And I'm going to say April, and I'm going to say the 5th. Folks, for those of you who are big sci-fi geek nerds like me, some of these dates might look familiar for you. Please stick in the comments if you know what these dates are. Bonus points if you know it without even looking them up, either in the comments already or on Google. 5th of April, 2063. If I wanted to go and grab just the year function from that, the year value from that, there is a year function. I can do that. I can press year equals year. I can open up the brackets, and I can reference my cell C25. And that's just basically taking the numerical value of that represents the year itself. I could do the same with month, C25, and I can do the same with day. Day, not date, which is important to sort of highlight. And there's an argument to say that it should say date, but day is what the function itself is called. So we've got this date up here that I've just punched in, 5th of April, 2063, and I can take the year using the year function, the month using the month function, and the day using the day function. I'm just going to get rid of that white space there, not because it makes a difference, but just because I like things tidy. What else is important? So we think about dates. We can also think about time as well, and sometimes it's important to be very specific as to when a certain thing has happened. We could do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to pick a time. 3:13 and 59 seconds. Let's just do that. That's my time. 3:13 in the morning, 59 seconds. I can choose to build it up in the same way as I did dates by using the time function. So my hour is going to be 3, my minute is going to be 13, and my second is going to be 59. Close off my brackets. There we go. We've created the same time there, but we're being very specific. We're saying that yes, this is the hour, this is the minute, this is the second. So that there's no confusion whatsoever that when I say I'm going to have a look at this time and we're going to add 1 day to it, and it still returns 3:13 and 59. That's quite interesting when you think about it, because the day is represented by the value 1. I've added 1 to it, but in exactly 24 hours time that represents 1 day, it's still going to be the same time, 3:13 and 59. So the value here, if I just copy and paste this across just here for a second, and I change this into a number itself, but what we see here is that it's actually got the value 1. It's not represented anything elsewhere. But that's because I've got C here. There we go, 1.13471. So that is the time, 3:13 and 59.13471, plus 1 day added to it. Keep that in mind. It's a random thing about when you're working with time. But what else are we going to do? I'm going to delete that cell and shift left so that I don't have the border there. But I can take the same time. I'm going to say equals this time. Shall we say this time instead? And I'm going to add 0.5 to it, half a day, and that's going to be represented by 12 hours, 3:13:59 in the afternoon instead. So dates and times, you can specify them by their elements. You can also extract them by their individual elements as well. We've seen year, month, day so far. We can do exactly the same with hour and minute. Minute. There it is. With my time here, and I didn't close off my brackets. Oh no, I got less than. There we go. Let's fix that. Or we can do second as well. Same deal again. Do you know, in fact, I'll look at this time instead for a change. There we go. So we can extract it all. I mentioned about calculations earlier. We can actually use lots of different calculations within months and dates. And actually, if you wanted to create a date and add a time to it, so you can actually use the date and time functions together. So if I open up a date function, I'm going to say we're going to 1955 this time, and it's November the 5th. And I want to add the time element to that, then I just simply need to add the time element to it. So I open up the time function, and we're going to go with 10:04 in the morning. So again, bonus points, folks, if you know what that date and time is. 5th November 1955, 10:04 in the morning. So, I mentioned on the last video that text is actually kind of useful. So as I said, if you hadn't watched the last video, it is a bit of a long one. Go back and have a look at it again, because the way that text works in spreadsheets, again, is slightly different. But the beauty of it is that with most spreadsheets, at least, as far as I'm aware, all of them do, have these sort of built-in formats for when you're working with dates themselves. So if you actually reference a cell that it knows contains a date or a time, whether that's actually in a date or time format or if it's the numerical value, you can actually have a look at it and say, well, I want you to format it textually according to whichever way that I want to do it. So but if I was going to have a look at text, we'll have a look at the date and time, though. So the one I've just created here, 5th of November, 1955 plus 10:04. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to then hit comma, and I'm going to specify the format. Now, the format I'm going to do, it has to be in double quotes if you type it in, because this is a text format we're working with. But I'm just going to put in the letters MM. Now, that is code. The 2 M's in double quotes is just code to say that I want you to return the 2 value. The 2 value representation of the month. MM, month, it's just the 2 value of it. If I was going to just put 1 in there, it would still be 11 because you can't represent 11 in one character. But we're going to be very specific here, and we're going to represent it in 2 M's. Now, bonus points for the astute amongst you will notice that everything I've typed in so far has been automatically aligned right. But for whatever reason, when I've typed in as a text value, it's aligned left. Go and have a look at the previous video if you want to know why. I'm going to expand this a little bit further. I'm just going to grab this. I'm actually going to grab this formula. And in fact, you know what? Let me make this what we call absolute. More on that later. I'm going to grab this formula and I'm going to paste it down a couple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change. I'm going to increment. I'm going to add an M to each time. So if I go 3 M's this time, it's now all of a sudden saying NOV, the 3-digit alphabetical, the word representation. And if I go of November, and if I go 4 M's, then it writes out the whole month of November. So that works really well. So if I wanted it in double format, just the numerical format, but as text, I use MM. If I want the 3-letter characterization, I use MMM. But if I want the full month written out, MMMM. It's the same function. I'm just specifying how I want the format to write out. You can do the same with days as well, so let me just grab this and I'm going to paste it down, and instead I'm going to change the MMMM to a D, and that's representing the value as 5, so the 5th of November 1955 is just represented by a single character, number 5. If I want to do the same thing, but I want to see the double day, so the 2 values, I can do DD, and that now then says 05. So does it make a difference to the value? Not at all, not in the slightest. It just changes how it appears. If I go DDD, what do you think is going to happen? DDD, that then changes it to the 3-letter representation of the day in which the 5th of November 1955 is. So it tells me that. So there's actually a lot of availability. I'm going to invite you to have a bit of a play about as to all of the built-in formats of dates and how dates themselves can actually be represented. But just to sort of like show you how it can sort of work, I'm actually going to take the same function and I'm going to say I want DDDD, comma, space, DD, space, MMMM space with a dash in between 2 spaces and then HH and MM. So this is the format in which I want that date represented, the 5th of November 1955. And when I close off my I'd already typed it in, my quotations and my closing brackets, and I hit enter there, and it's representing it exactly in that format. DDDD, the full word Saturday, followed by a comma and a space, then the date in a double numerical format, 05 space, the full month November, space 1955, and then a hyphen, followed by the hour and the minute of the time that I'm working on. It skipped off the seconds because I don't need it. So you can get really, really specific about how you want the dates formatted. But you have to be careful with this because, as you'll know from the last video, as soon as you have formatted this from a text, it is no longer that numerical format. It is no longer we can no longer access elements of it as a date. So if I was going to go and grab the year from this format that I've now just created, you're going to get an error, and it will tell you that you cannot extract year because it's actually a text. And when you hover over it, that's actually what it tells you. The year parameter expects number values, but what we've got in there, Saturday 05 November, blah, 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 is text, cannot be coerced to a number. So I have a future video where I'm going to be talking about how to handle errors and what we can actually have as a result of that. But for now, this is the video over. So have a play about with it. We can grab dates, we can type in dates manually, we can be very specific as to how we enter the dates. We can use the today and the now functions, but please be cautious. We can build up dates, we can build up times, and we can extract year, month, date, hour and minute and second from our dates and times. And then we can also text format into whichever format actually works for our spreadsheet for the stakeholders, however we want. But the caution is, as soon as you've converted it into that textual format, it no longer is a number, it's not a date, you can't use it as that. Folks, have a play about with it. Look out for the next video that's going to be coming soon. I appreciate you. This is Duke, signing off.